Hi everyone, welcome back to Dark Fantasy Therapy, and as I promised, now we are with one video about one of the most famous weapons ever existed in the world, and actually one of my favorite, the Halberd. Now, what is a Halberd in very short? It's this long polearm with an axe blade on one side, a hook or a thorn on the back on the other side, and a spike on the top. But this weapon is not just this fancy looking spear for knights. It's a story. It's a story of innovation, adaptation and survival across many centuries of warfare. And we should start from the very beginning, the origin of the halberd. Now, we are in the 11th, 13th centuries, and basically there was all this bunch of infantry that were trying hard to figure out how to deal with the knights in plate armor. It was a time where Europe was covered in feudal warfare, and basically the elite warriors, the elite guard of the kings, was composed of this armored cavalry, and these knights were the tanks of that time. Okay, they were impenetrable. Arrows could do nothing against them, and they were just charging with their lances, protected, head to toe with this chainmail armored, and then with plate, and they were basically indestructible. And infantry started to think, generals like, okay, how we can deal with that, because the spears, the glaives, even with all the thrusting power, were not enough. Okay, so how can we counterattack this impossible charge? And many people think that it was in Switzerland that someone at some point tried to combine many weapons together in a single weapon. And by the 14th century, we get the early halberd. Now, we are still in Switzerland because many people say that the name, or at least the fame, maybe not the very origin, but at least the fame started to spread out in Switzerland across between the 14th and the 15th centuries, because the Swiss confederates that, they actually exist even now, that at that time they were considered these warriors from the mountain, okay, adapted this weapon as their bread and butter weapon for the battlefield. Okay, and the halberd was this axe blade, so they could chop and cleave. The spike on top, that was for thrusting and using armor piercing damage. Oh my god, this is like my other game, but it's true. To penetrate the armors of plate. And then the hook, or that was basically a beak to pulling horsemen off saddles. And what's crazy, okay? Because you had all the weapons, all the kind of attack that you can ask for in a battlefield in just one single weapon. And that was, the beauty of the halberd, the utility of the extreme utility of the tool. And it was a problem solver, okay, for the knights in plate armor and so on. They could dismount knights, they could deal with very, very tough protection, and even for siege defenses, they were very versatile, okay? And at that time, it was not a concept very, very common, the versatility of a weapon. And there was a very important battle, that I was remembered for that. That was the Battle of Morgarten. Wait, I'm checking my notes. In the 1315, and later in Sempak in 1386, where basically there was the Swiss army composed with these halberdiers. That was, the first time that we are giving a name to the soldiers with this weapon. that they basically destroy the cavalry with the heavy cavalry, with their organization, with their formation, and using this new versatile weapon. And at that time, the halberd became, you know, a symbol of the Swiss independence and resistance. And that's why even the guard of the Pope have access to, you know, the halberds. Now, let's go back in, let's remain a little in the 15th century, where basically the halberd is hitting the, we can say, the golden age. Okay, in this period, they was started to get used all across Europe, not only in Switzerland, but even in Germany, in Italy. There were many city-states that were getting that. And I mean, even in the East Europe, okay, started to spread. And yeah, it was not only for, you know, peasants, for infantry fighting against cavalry, but there were started to be some expert pro warriors called the Landskanks. They were in Germany. That yeah, they were wielding halberds. They were trained about how to use it, and they develop very dangerous infantry tactics. And this okay, I have to pronounce it correctly, the Landskanks. They were like, you know, the Renaissance bad boys with probably you already saw some photos of them. They have these puffed sleeves with huge plumes, and yeah. And yeah, the halberd at that point was not only a weapon for the battlefield, but even, you know, a symbol of command. Many officers were carrying, you know, instead of swords, these very elaborated, decorated halberds to, you know, signal the movements to their troops and so on. And yes, basically it was the halberd was working that good because yeah, the spike was puncture weak points in the armor, and that's why it was so effective. And yeah, the axe could deliver this concussive damage, and then there was the hook that could unhorse the knights. So yeah, it really proved to be the dangerous weapons ever created, I mean, at least in melee. And it was, you know, a good example of the technology, the military technology evolving at that time. And now we have tanks and planes, but at that time, you know, this single weapon, like the invention of the bow, okay, that you could finally fight with I mean, attack an animal from distance. Okay, it was keeping, I mean, having the chance to aim at the target. It was something very revolutionary at the time. Even if for you it's just you know, a spear with an axe and a hook. And yeah, very funny. Now we go to the 16th centuries, and where basically, yeah, it became more a ceremonial weapon, not only probably it started to lose credit all over the battlefield, but yeah, it gained this important role in the authorities. Okay, it was not anymore a weapon of war, but a weapon of ceremony. And yeah, armies were professionalizing. There was the gunpowder weapons. So I mean, it was yeah, we can say the warfare was getting reshaped. So halberds remained, but yeah, more for sergeants and executives of the battle, generals, but not for soldiers that were using more ranged weapons. But yeah, it was a symbol of command, and in the chaos of the battlefield, you know, they could direct formation, just pointing out where to go and so on. And then there were the, you know, the elite guard in the royal courts that were wielding the halberd, but yeah, it was something more symbolic. I think yeah, as I said, of the Pope, the Pontifical Swiss Guard, that first, fun fact, they are only Swiss people, and second, yeah, they are very colorful, very Renaissance, and with this Renaissance outfit, and they carry the halberds to these days. But yeah, meanwhile, in many cases, like there were artists like Albrecht Dürer and another one that I don't remember, that starting to depict halberds in art. So yeah, it really got famous, we can say. And you have to think that it's not like now that over 1 year you can get viral before, you know, to reach artists and you know, the rest of the world. I mean, you really took centuries. And now we are in the 17th century. That is, we can call it the gunpowder age, and you know, the melee combat was facing his decline, and the halberd, that was the pride of the infantry, started to fade as a frontline weapon. And yeah, with the gunpowder that reached his peak, you know, no one was caring anymore about making formation with pikes and so on. Like, even if you think about the Roman Empire, and yeah, so even the surgeons themselves were not using it anymore. I mean, they could rely on pistols, on guns, and yeah, they were just you know, they lose completely ground. And basically by the end of the 17th century, in very short, the halberd was disappeared. It was just a legacy of war, but it didn't exist anymore. And now we are in the 18th, 19th century, where the halberd was I mean, completely just for tradition and decoration. And yeah, purely ceremonial, purely academic. We can say you can go to university to watch some of them, to museums, military academics that were open to the public, but they were even for collectors. Okay, they started to be an artistic piece, so you know, they were starting to buy and sell it. But yeah, it was you know, a symbol of a revolution of technology of that time, but it didn't have any use anymore. And in the modern times is basically like that. There are some martial arts that use it. There is the guard of the Pope, and yeah, many different things. And then, you know, with many different games like Elden Ring, Dark Souls, the Dark Souls genre, The Witcher, Game of Thrones, I mean, movies, series, it started, you know, to become more famous, to get appreciated by people, and that's why probably there is some interest in knowing about it. Thank you for following me. I really enjoy making a video more historical, more about the weapons and the warfare, so tell me if you would be interested in something more like that, and see you very soon.